Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Ye. I am the Wellness Coordinator at Ponderosa, and I have put together a little something for all of you parents because I know this is a really rough time to be parenting. We're headed into month 7 of the pandemic, and we've revved up distance learning this year, and everyone's been at home with their families for a long time at this point. So we wanted to create this from Wellness just to share some support for all of you, just to let you know a little bit more about what we're doing this year virtually as Wellness until our plans evolve as a school district. We have our wellness check-in request that anybody can access through our district website. We have on-site school-based counseling. You can also get in touch with me about that. We do think about with those spots, looking at challenges that arise specifically at school, and they have to meet some certain criteria, but we do have a training program. And we also have on our district website a wellness area that is dedicated to parents and families with a variety of resources, whether it's self-care, social justice, grief and loss issues, getting connected to mental health services, any variety of resources are up there, legal resources, housing as well. And then we also have something new this year, which is a contract with Care Solace. And they are a concierge mental health service that helps work with you and your family to figure out the best mental health resources based on insurance, based on not having any insurance, and they will walk you through that process and talk to you on the phone, email you, whatever is easiest for you, and they will keep following up with you until they've done their best to get you the most appropriate services. So all of that will be linked in the presentation that I'm giving today. So there'll be this video, and then we'll have a PDF for all of you so that you don't have to take notes or write anything down. And those will have live links to all of the district resources from Wellness. And then, of course, please reach out to me with any questions that you have, and you can do that by phone or you can do that via email. So I want to get started a little bit talking about self-care for tough times and hopefully providing some information that will be of benefit. So I'm going to share the presentation that I created, and right here we got a brain lifting some weights because our minds are certainly working very hard. It reminds me of all the growth mindset work that we do with the children as well. So I just wanted to address distance learning. I know there's varying levels of stress for parents around distance learning, depending on the age of your child's personality. It's a really big ask for our young citizens to be doing so much learning virtually. And I know it's a big ask for parents as well. Many parents are managing other children in the home, in addition to potentially part-time or full-time work. So here are a few tips that I've seen that I think might be useful, and hopefully my goal here is to reduce the stress that you might be feeling around distance learning. So one that I thought was really lovely is thinking about putting on your teacher hat. And I found this in the Big Life Journal resource. They're a wonderful growth mindset resource online. And they even talked about Mr. Rogers and how he would take off his tennis shoes and his cardigan when he was changing roles. So whether it's something you say verbally that you're shifting gears into teacher mode to help them access their Google Meets or Google Classroom, or even if you have a necklace or something that you put on just to distinguish those roles for both you and your child. The second is having a designated workspace. And I live in a small home and I have a child doing distance learning. And so we don't have separate rooms for that, but even carving out separate areas on our table has been really helpful so that we can each own our work areas and feel like we can decorate them the way we want and that we know where our things are. And then breaks to recharge. So breaks for both of you to recharge. Zoom fatigue or being online for so long is a real thing. And if your child is just getting too flustered or frustrated, it's okay to take breaks and come back to it. If you're getting too frustrated or flustered, it's okay to take breaks and come back to it. Every day is going to look a little different. I think this is a time, as we get to below that, we're all just really trying to practice more flexibility and just grace towards navigating things as best we can. And so growth mindset is something that I know the PTA talks about a lot, your teachers for your children talk about a lot. And that's just the idea of thinking about the way you speak to yourself and setting yourself up for a more flexible mindset. So it might be something like challenges help me learn. Mistakes are an opportunity for growth. They are very big on using the word yet. So if our mind tends to jump to the negative and we say, I can't do that, saying, I can't do that yet. So if it was a tough day or a tough class or something tough after school, thinking about some of those growth mindset statements can sort of help everybody reset and practice grace and flexibility. So those two go together. And then the last is to fill your own cup, which is a metaphor for taking care of yourself so that because you deserve that, but also you can better be there for the loved ones in your life. And if you have an outside job, you're going to be able to focus better at work and all those things if you're taking care of yourself. And we'll get more into that. And this is a statement that came out from a psychologist online that went viral within my parent community. And I just loved it. And I shared it with many parents last year when we went into distance learning, but it feels just as applicable today because, in Northern California, most of us are doing distance learning right now. And so I think it's so important. I'm just going to take time to read it, even though I know you all can read it yourselves. And it says, parents, what we are being asked to do is not humanly possible. There is a reason we are either a working parent, a stay-at-home parent, or a part-time working parent. Working, parenting, and teaching are 3 different jobs that cannot be done at the same time. It's not hard because you're doing it wrong. It's hard because it's too much. Do the best you can. When you have to pick, because at some point you will, choose connection. Pick over arguing about an academic assignment. Pick teaching your child to do laundry rather than feeling frustrated that they aren't helping. Pick laughing and snuggling and reminding them that they are safe. If you are stressed, lower your expectations where you can and virtually reach out for social connection. We are all in this together to stay well. That means mentally well too. So I hope that resonated with you as much as it did with me and my community of parents. So thinking about self-care for tough times, I think self-care is something that we hear about a lot. It's a buzzword, it's mainstream, and I love that it's mainstream. But I also think there's some common myths about self-care, that self-care is about fancy spa treatments or a weekend getaway with friends. And self-care doesn't need to be expensive, and there's different types of self-care. So what I want to talk about today is, there's lots of different ways to care for yourself. What are some of the things that you can prioritize during this time? Because I know from talking with other parents, whether it be personally or through work, we are all stretched so thin. So it's not like we have a lot of extra time on our hands to experiment with all these different things. So I thought it might be useful to talk about which areas can be helpful to hone in on. And I also wanted to read a quote from a recent article in the New York Times by Jessica Gross. And I think, so many of us, myself included, are just taking things one day at a time. And when I read this, it was very interesting to put context and realize, how long we've been in this process. And I think it's very validating as well for those days that it just feels really hard. So she writes, as we slouch into month 7 of the pandemic, the mental health impact on parents remains significant and shows no signs of abating. Though the pandemic has certainly affected the mental health of all demographics, research from the APA showed that in April and May, parents with children at home under 18 were markedly more stressed than non-parents. So I don't think we need research to tell us this, but as parents, we have extra responsibilities, and sometimes it can feel validating to have that research and to take time to reflect on that. So here are some of the things that I think about when it comes to self-care for tough times. I think about if you have a team in place to support around mental wellness, whether that's a therapist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, or just keeping up with your medical appointments and taking care of your physical health. That's something that's important to either check back in with if you're feeling like you might need that, or if you haven't reached out to a therapist for help before, this could be a time to check in with yourself and see if that would be useful. In talking with some friends that work in online therapy companies, they're saying that the demand is so high right now because everyone, whether they're parents or not, is just facing so much stress right now. So you're not alone if extra help right now would be of use. And then I put this in here because drinking lots of water seems like sometimes something silly to talk about, but for many of us that had children that went to school during the day, you had potentially a little bit more freedom around your meals and snacks and routine. And everybody's sort of home. There's more dishes, more meals to be cooked and prepared. And it can just be easy to go into the next thing and skip that meal or not get enough water. But this helps you with your mood and your energy. And then walking or moving regularly, whatever that means for you. It could be an outdoor walk. It could be, looking up something on YouTube with a yoga class, or just, doing 10 jumping jacks, something just to keep your body moving. There's a wonderful book called The Joy of Movement by Dr. Kelly McGonigal out of Stanford. And she talks about the fact that just 3 minutes of movement can boost your mood. So it doesn't need to be some big thing, and just a little extra reminder of the benefit. Because sometimes right now when we're home and there's not a lot to do, you don't really feel like moving a lot, or we're hunched over our computers a lot more than usual. The other is staying connected to your community. I think that's so important. So making time to check in with your friends, to check on them as well, right? Not just for you, but just that community care of seeing how your community is doing, because this is such a challenging time. And, for the most part, when you're talking with people and you have a healthy relationship with someone, you tend to feel more connected and uplifted, even if you're talking about difficult things, when you're connecting with someone about that. So I think that's a big priority as well. And then just asking for help in general. So we talked about help with our physical health or mental health, but everybody's really evaluating what kind of risk they're comfortable with, and what kind of, with the kind of help that they need to just stay mentally well. And I know in my community of parents, there was a lot of decisions around sending younger children back to daycare. And it was lovely to hear that multiple pediatricians in the area were asking parents to calculate in that risk their own well-being, and that they're seeing parents come into their offices on the brink because of all the demands right now. And so if you've got family around, or babysitters or daycares or other options that can be of support, and the safety factor feels tolerable to you, it's something to consider, because it's not like this has gone on for just a couple months. We're over 6 months at this point. I think another one that's really difficult right now, and sometimes not the most fun to talk about, is prioritizing sleep. I think a lot of times it can be easy to get caught up in being on our devices, getting sucked into looking at the news at night, or, watching a couple extra TV shows. So just thinking that, I think with parents, it's always that balance of wanting some me time after the kids are finally in bed, and also prioritizing rest. So I think, and also right now there's more stress, so it could be hard to calm your mind and go to sleep. But I would say definitely, a few nights a week, really prioritizing your rest. And if you're having trouble sleeping or quieting your mind, at least just, lying in bed and either reading a book or resting your eyes until you can sleep. And then I put in there non-negotiable me time. And so depending on your situation, this may be more realistic, depending on the age of your children, how many children, what kind of help you have. But even if it's, 5, 10, or 15 minutes just to breathe a little bit or text a friend, and it doesn't need to be every day, but really thinking about building in some breaks for you, just like we do for our kids. And I just think the idea is we make sure our kids sign into their Google Classroom with all their different sign-in times and uploading things. Treat yourself the same or something. And again, it's not something to be evaluated every day, and it may not happen every day, but I would just take a look over, a couple week time period and say, hey, am I getting in some myself, whatever that's like for you. And then now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and see you at home, and some inexpensive things that you can do at home. So I love massage technique is one tennis ball. hopefully you might have one just around the house. And I've given this out for staff wellness events. And here's a couple things or positions you can use with the tennis ball. But since nobody's going out to get massages right now, and because they are expensive, this is just something easy you can do during your workday while you're home with the kids. And it just takes a minute. And so that might be something interesting to take a look at. And then also there's a lot of talk about, mindfulness and meditation. And I do have a meditation practice and I value that. And I think part of that is just being in the therapy field. And so I know people sometimes have mixed responses to that and really you need to find what works for you. But I think you don't need to meditate in order to practice mindfulness and to reap the benefits of mindfulness. So just pausing every now and then during your day, just to take a couple deep breaths for you, can just help you reset and have a moment of relaxation. And sometimes people like to think of certain mantras, like breathing in courage and exhaling fear, breathing in grace and letting go of perfectionism. So you can come up with these little mantras for yourself. And sometimes it helps you focus when you're doing your breathing, or just reaffirm something that you're trying to set an intention for that day. What I also included in here, if you are interested in meditation, are some great self-compassion meditations from a couple of different websites, and anywhere, you can see here from 5 minutes to 24 minutes. I want to point out a few of them. So the first I want to point out is the body scan. I think that's a really relaxing meditation. Also, if you're having trouble falling asleep at night, doing a meditation right before bed can sometimes really help you fall asleep. The loving kindness meditation is a wonderful meditation for right now. It's very simple and short. This one's 20 minutes, but the mantras of what you repeat to yourself would only take, a minute or two to practice. And you can practice that kindness towards yourself, towards your children, towards other people in the world. And it's a really lovely meditation, especially for right now and everything that's happening in our world. I also wanted to point out the caregiver meditation. And the caregiver meditation really, I think, speaks to parents because we do so much for our kids. And so it just helps you focus on also taking breaths for yourself and not just breaths for everybody else. So that's another meditation that would be nice to check out potentially. And then here's a few everyday mindfulness activities. I know we call it this tea with wellness. I'm big on my coffee in the morning. And so there's a link to a quick explanation of how to be more present with your 5 senses when you're either drinking that morning cup of coffee to get going or taking a shower, because hopefully we all are able to have time to take a shower in the day. But oftentimes if we're showering in the morning, we're thinking about our to-do list and we've already jumped ahead, a few hours into the day. So this is another practical exercise that helps you tune into your 5 senses. Maybe you really like the way your shampoo smells, and just different prompts to help bring you back to the present instead of getting sucked in immediately to the to-do list for the day. I also wanted to highlight here the science of laughter, because I think laughter is such a wonderful way to offset emotions for both adults and kids, and release some stress or frustration. But it also has some of the same benefits of meditation. And so joyful laughter has been shown to produce the same brainwave frequencies as a meditative state. So if you're not as much into meditation, or you think that maybe watching that silly movie after the kids go to bed, or watching a funny movie with the kids isn't of value, I just wanted to put this in here to say it is very valuable. And there are some different ideas here about how to increase the joyful laughter in your life. And then I've also included some parenting affirmations. And this just goes back to, again, that growth mindset and, speaking kindly to ourselves and really speaking to ourselves the way we speak to our children. And I think so often we can be our own worst critics, especially right now, I think, because as Dr. King pointed out, we're doing so many jobs of being at home, managing homeschooling, parenting, potentially also working outside of the home, that it's easy to sort of get that negative mindset and criticize yourself that you're not doing it well enough. And so here are some affirmations to help challenge those negative thoughts that come up, and just to practice speaking kindly to ourselves and modeling that for our kids. I also wanted to highlight the 5 love languages. This was something I put out in the wellness newsletter to staff last year, and I got a lot of positive feedback about it. So we are all home together, spending so much time together, and that can be wonderful in some ways, but probably also stressful in other ways. And so this is a lovely tool that I've used for many years, and it's from Dr. Gary Chapman, and he has this quiz that you can go on and take, and you can do it for your relationship, if you're a single person, for your child or your teen, and it talks about the different ways that people like to receive love and show love, and that often in a family, people have different quote unquote love languages. And so they're not feeling appreciated or loved because they don't understand the way you show love, and vice versa. And so this quiz will tell you what your top 2 or 3 love languages are. You can take it with your child, and that way you can prioritize, because I know we're all pressed for time. You can prioritize what types of things you want to do with your child or your partner, because some people really like to be, complimented. Some people really like, hugs. Other people like gifts, and that doesn't mean anything expensive, but just small thoughtful things that show that you're paying attention. Other people just want that time, that uninterrupted time, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And for other people, if you were to, like, let's say for your partner, if you usually cook dinner and your partner does it for you, just acts of service that help you feel appreciated. So that can be, it's really short, and it can be a fun quiz, and I got a lot of good feedback from the staff on that. And then here's just some different self-care ideas, just to give you some inspiration if you feel like you're in a rut. I just feel like right now we don't want things that are too text heavy. Some bright illustrations can be nice, just to get us thinking and not having to dive into anything in terms of too dense reading. And then here's some other ideas just to create an at-home relaxation station for yourself. Quick self-care ideas, because as we've said, we're very stretched right now. And I always like to point this one out too, about releasing your jaw. I think we're all walking around with extra tension, which usually means shoulders hunched up to our ears a little more, our clenched jaw. And so just checking in with your posture really can just make a huge difference. And then really looking at, what are the things that fill me up and make me feel more energized and joyful, and what are the things that drain me? And having a little bit more awareness around that, I think, can be really helpful. And then there's also some self-care for your senses here. And again, that really, I included that because mindfulness is not necessarily meditation. A lot of it is about just being more present in a general sense and being more connected to our 5 senses. That's a really easy way to get more present. So there's some ideas here. And then I also included some information about a new book that I'm really liking from another professor out of Stanford, BJ Fogg. And it's all about tiny habits, and that, the reason most people don't feel successful with change is because they take on a goal that's too big. So he talks about creating really, really simple, small goals, celebrating the success of achieving them, and then building upon that. And he also talks about tying things into something you're already doing, so it doesn't feel too outside of your routine. So for example, if you want to read a little bit more, you could say, I'll read 1 page of my book when I turn on my alarm for the next day, because most of us set an alarm for the next day. So I like that his tips are so practical. They're so small. They make you feel really excited about the small changes that you're working into your life. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about this as well, because I think, thinking about changing your routine drastically at this time is just, it's just too overwhelming. And so in addition to BJ Fogg, just in general in the mental health community, we talk about, when you're making change, just to really set 1 or 2 goals at a time. Nothing more, because you can sort of get burnt out on even the idea of taking care of yourself better if you set too big of goals around that. And then just for fun, I put together a list of some of my favorite and my colleagues' favorite self-care products. So this giant stress ball is really fun. I have one of these, and I don't even have it in my counseling office for the kids when we are in school, because I think it's so fun. Another is a lavender aromatherapy eye pillow, which just smells nice and can help you relax. And then this Pinch Me therapy dough is one of my favorite therapy doughs that I've tried before. They have lots of different scents that you can choose from. This Unwind Everyday Journal is really neat. It's 365 ideas for self-care and unwinding at the end of the day. And so if you ever are in a rut, there's lots of ideas there to give you some inspiration. The 5-minute journal is also lovely if you like more of a bulleted focused journaling and you don't do as much long form journaling. I like it because it has you look at what you're grateful for the day, setting some intentions, giving yourself compliments for what you're doing well, noticing what went well, and what kind of things you want to work on in the future. And then down here is a self-care card deck from Rachel Latham that I really like. And it has, again, it's a 52 cards with different self-care ideas. It's broken up into different categories. So I use cards a lot in therapy with both children and adults. And this is an adult deck. And that can be a fun way to either flip it over so you can't see what it is and see what you get for the day, or to just spread it out and see what is speaking to you. I also really love these self-care temporary tattoos from this company called Personal Pep Talk. Those have been a hit with the teachers at Ponderosa as well. And then over here is a free digital card deck from Positively Present. And they have a large Instagram presence. I love that account. It's so inspiring and colorful and just sort of a beautiful way to start your day. And she illustrated the ABCs of self-care. And so it's the alphabet, and she's got a self-care practice for each one of the letters. It could even be, for some of you with younger kids, something that you can use with your kids for them to learn about self-care and also learn about their letters. And then I included some of my favorite books and podcasts. And I tried to just keep it really simple, thinking about what are the kinds of books, if someone were to order something, that they actually might want to flip through. And so all 4 of these books, well, I'd say mostly the first 3, Stand Tall Like a Mountain, the little book of, I think it's Huga, and Good Morning, I Love You, are really, the first 2 are very visually fun. And all 3 of those first ones, you can just go to a certain chapter and look something up versus having to read through the whole thing. Tiny Habits, there's a little bit more of an investment in, reading the theory and the research and how behavior change works and motivation and all of that. But the reason I included it and the reason I do love it is he's got a lovely visual of his theory around change that's very digestible. And also in the back of the book, he has about hundreds of ideas, to tiny habit ideas that are just bite-sized and realistic that can help with brain health, sleep, mood, all different types of things. So if you're intrigued by his work, it might be fun just to grab that book and then also look in the back of his sort of index area where he's got, a ton of ideas around that. And then I think a lot of us, listen to podcasts while we're doing the dishes or going for a walk. And The Science of Happiness by Greater Good Magazine is my favorite. That is out of UC Berkeley. They also have a wonderful online magazine website, basically. They have a monthly happiness calendar with live links to different things you can do. They've also had, to me, the most useful articles that I've seen during the pandemic around how to cope with uncertainty, around the importance of friendship, about how to find beauty in a chaotic and painful time. Just really practical ideas, things that really speak to what's going on. And their podcasts are about 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, so very short, not like a long investment. Scientifically based and really practical ideas that can help us just stay mentally well. The same with Happier by Gretchen Rubin, really bite-sized episodes. I'd say anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And she's done, she's an author, but a lot of research around different habits that can help us with our mood and maintain wellness. Work Life with Adam Grant is wonderful. He talks about burnout, positive company cultures. He's written a lot of books. I just find his podcast to be very engaging and useful around work issues. And then the last thing I've included here are, different popular apps that you might want to check out. So another great way to explore meditation is through an app and having a guided meditation. So Headspace and Calm are very popular. I like Insight Timer. They have a lot of self-compassion meditations on there with the big self-compassion researcher, Kristen Neff. Simply Being is one I've used for over 10 years. It is so simple, no fuss. They haven't added anything to it, and it's just one that I go back to a lot. Shine is wonderful. It is a Black-owned business. It has inclusive meditations, gratitude journaling, affirmations. You can sign up for these daily text messages. So I've used that off and on for a couple years as well. There's another breathing app. And then also I put in here, and a lot of these try to target sleep as well. This All Recipes dinner spinner has been a popular one that I saw for meal planning, because I think, again, we're making so many meals at home, and sometimes it's hard to come up with new ideas and stay organized. So I'm going to stop sharing here and come back. So I hope this was helpful. Again, this is nothing that you have to do every single thing. Just wanted to reiterate, pick one or two things that you want to focus on. And I think, the reason I wanted to do this overall is just to remind you how important you are, what a great job you're doing, how hard you've been working for 7 months, to take some of that effort and organization that we often put mostly towards our kids or our work and turn some of that towards you, so that you can stay well during these times. And if you have any questions or want to, talk about anything that was in this packet, please reach out to me. I love talking with parents. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. And hopefully I'll get to hear from some of you and meet with some of you. Thanks so much.